Hello, everyone. Welcome back to People Do Wanna Know podcast. You've been warned that I have a very unconventional episode for you today, but if we're being honest with ourselves, we probably all need to hear it. The emphasis here is on the word but, because today I'm interviewing Dr. Rosenfeld, who is a proctologist, aka a butt doctor. One week, we're hearing from a hostage negotiator. Another week, we're hearing from a proctologist. That's showbiz, folks. That's how it goes. Anyway, Dr. Rosenfeld is viral on TikTok and known as Tushy Doc, where he posts educational videos about butt and gut health. Here is your disclaimer, once and for all. If you cannot stand talking about poop, this episode is not for you. Did I lose you? No? Okay, good. Listen. I know my listenership, and it's a bunch of Jews, and we all have butt and gut issues, so I figured this is a great opportunity for us to learn together. I am saving you a doctor's appointment here, so you're welcome. Okay, well, I learned about Dr. Rosenfeld from TikTok when I was randomly served one of his videos about what to do if you have poop in your pants. And it caught my attention instantly because I realized watching it, I was like, wait, I think this guy is actually serious. Like, this is not a satirical video. So I went down a rabbit hole of his videos and learned that he actually makes really cool educational content. In this episode, Dr. Rosenfeld and I discuss his rise to fame, the nature of his work, and he gives countless valuable pieces of advice on how to take care of your booty. We also talk about my colonoscopy journey. Yes, if my future husband is listening to this, I apologize. When I was 18, I got a colonoscopy and they discovered a precancerous polyp, so now I get colonoscopies every 5 years. It's unfortunate, but I also have history of colon and stomach cancer in my family, so it's a must. I talk about this all as well in the episode. I remember in high school, I used to joke that no one could make fun of me because I almost had ass cancer. Honestly, I will tell you that whatever gastro issue or digestive issue there is on earth, I've probably had it. As a little kid, I even had an infection of the colon. I was really sick as a kid. I even had an at-home IV and a nurse at some point. That's how sick I was growing up in Ukraine. But I think over time I just outgrew it, and now I generally have great health. All that is to say is I think it's very important to talk about these kinds of issues as they are very common and very real, especially in the Jewish community. Dr. Rosenfeld gives some great statistics about colon cancer, which is one of the only preventable cancers out there. He also talks about hemorrhoids, which thankfully and surprisingly, I don't know much about because I don't have, but apparently 75% of people will have hemorrhoids at some point in their lives. And at any given time, 4.4% of the general US population has them. So it turns out it's really common. If any of this is relevant to you, I hope you hear something that helps you. And if you don't know too much, I hope you learn something new so that you can recognize signs if there are ever any. Dr. Rosenfeld also gives us a sneak peek into his Jewish life toward the end of the episode. He says that we need to be mensches and menschesses, which I found kind of neat. I haven't heard the word menschesses before. It's a funny word for a female mensch. Anyway, definitely putting you out of your comfort zone today, folks. But remember, this is People Jew Wanna Know. Please enjoy. Hello, Dr. Rosenfeld. Welcome to People Do Want to Know podcast. How are you tonight?
Amazing, Margarita. I'm here with you on this podcast. Very excited.
Thanks so much for coming on. My first question for you is, tell us about yourself. What do you do and how did you get there?
All right. Let's see about me. I was born and raised in Michigan and did all my schooling. I went to the University of Michigan undergrad. And I'm a proctologist. I'm a butt doctor. So a Tushy Doc, that's my name on TikTok, and we'll get there in a little bit. So I don't know, it's just kind of a thing to be a doctor. I was good at science. I was good at math. It seemed like the right thing to do. Little pressure from my Jewish parents to be a doctor. You know, actually there's a lot. But I went on that road, University of Michigan undergrad, then Wayne State Medical School. I did my general surgery residency at the St. John Hospital in Detroit. Lots of trauma. Did not like trauma. It was a lot of work and up all night. Got a little bit resentful of all the late nights, doing that. But it was a huge learning experience, and I'm truly grateful that I was able to do that. In my surgery residency, someone mentioned, think about going into colorectal surgery. It's a shitty job, but somebody has to do it. You get to charge by the pound. as reimbursements go down. So that was another reason. And they always said, if you're going to be successful, you got to start at the bottom and work your way up. And, I do colonoscopies and I'm still working my way up. So, those are the reasons that I tell people, not always in that order, but people always want to know, how'd you get into it? It's just something I thought I wanted to do. I wanted to learn how to do surgery in the pelvis better. Probably over 100 million people suffer from hemorrhoids, and knowing how to deal with patients' hemorrhoids is just a blessing. Also, lifestyle. Colorectal surgeons weren't up all night doing trauma. When they operated, it was typically elective cases, and they went home and dealt with the patients in the hospital, but didn't really come in for emergencies. And that really was appealing to me. So the people who went on and came back as colorectal surgeons recommended it. I decided to do it. So I ended up at USC for my fellowship here in California in 1997. I was staying for 1 year. Then I was going to go back to Michigan and get a job. And it is now 27 years later. I'm still in California. I went back just to visit. I realized I am not going back to Michigan. It is way too cold. And I was, older. My friends were all married with kids. And there was really nothing there for me. So I stayed in California, and here I am.
I have to say, for someone whose parent works in medicine, she always talks about that. She's like, in retrospect, maybe I should have gone into colorectal surgery. Because when we came to America, my mom had to do her residency over again. She was a doctor in Ukraine. And then when we immigrated, she passed the USMLE by studying for it on her own. And then she had to do her residency over again. And she did it in St. Cloud, Minnesota. And she went from being an OBGYN to a family physician. But she's like, those colorectal surgeons, they pick their hours. They only have a couple of procedures a day. They're important. Yes. They never go out of business. Yep. So we, in my family, have a lot of respect for colorectal surgery and also frequently experience it. For example, I have to get colonoscopies every 5 years.
Really? So it must be family history.
Yes. I'm well adjusted. I'll mention, so I have a great colorectal surgeon in Minnesota, and I actually went to Jewish summer camp with his daughter. And so recently I actually had my colonoscopy this year. When I went to see him, he didn't know that I grew up with his daughter for decades. And so I was like, oh, Dr. Felamovicius, I went to camp in high school with your daughter and now you're picking in my butt. Look how the world works. And
That's right. I know. Yeah. I give you a lot of credit for going to see him because most people don't want to go to somebody that they may know. I can't tell you how many people, whether it's at the Chabad or out, my friends that will say, I'm having an issue and there's not a chance in this lifetime that I'm going to come into your office and have you look at me. And I'm like, honestly, by the time we're done and I see you again, if we're looking eye to eye, I'll never recognize you. I got to be looking at your butt. So I'll probably forget. But yeah, it's embarrassing.
I had to get over this fear at 18 years old when I had to have my first colonoscopy. So at 18 years old, I needed to have my first colonoscopy. And I went to my mom's colleague's husband. After the colonoscopy, just a few months later, I had my graduation party from high school. And my mom invited her colleague and the husband who did my colonoscopy. And I was mortified. And I was like, he can't come to my party. That's embarrassing. That's horrible. So for months, I thought about what I was going to say to him to disarm the awkwardness. And I came up with it. He never showed up, which honestly, his loss. It was an amazing graduation party. But what I was going to say to him, had I the opportunity, was, hello, Dr. Khan, nice to see you from the other side. Which I thought was really good.
You had it all planned. He didn't show up. Oh my gosh. Yeah. That is funny.
It's okay. Okay. Now, what I'm curious about is your TikTok career and your TikTok fame. How did you decide to go on TikTok and make educational content about gastro and colon health and create what's called the Tushy Team?
The Tushy Team. I tried to avoid social media for a long time. I was on Facebook for my corporation. I didn't do much personally. I did it for a bit and then just got off my personal and did corporate. Facebook. I had YouTube videos. I did one public service announcement about prepping for colonoscopy. It's called the Bowel Prep Shuffle, and it's on YouTube. And it was just a funny video on prepping your colon. I did a mock version of a Pitbull song. That was it. I was blessed to have been on the doctor show multiple times, and I took those videos and put them up on YouTube. That was it. My kids were telling me, I have three boys, and they're now 21, 19, and 17. And for the years, they've been about 2 years like, Dad, you got to get on social media. You got to get on TikTok. Got to get on Instagram. And I just fought it. I just didn't really want to do it. I didn't know what I would do. I didn't know how I would do it. I mean, I was comfortable on camera, and I fought it and I fought it, and I'd let it go. They'd let it go. And then, I don't know, probably 6 months ago, or maybe longer than that, I heard like 3 times from 3 different people that I needed to be on TikTok and or Instagram. And I said, okay, for me, I know that I believe, as a Jew, that we all have a part of God in us. And that's how, to me, God speaks to me through other people, because we all have a little piece of God. So when someone's talking to me, typically God's talking to me. And when God says something 3 times in a short period of time, he's kind of yelling at me because I'm not listening. And I said, all right, I hear. A friend of mine did a lot of social media, was starting his own company. We talked, and he said, I'll help you out. And that was it. He sat down in my office. He goes, your first video should be something simple. And I just said hello to TikTok. And I said, I don't even remember what, I just waved, and we put a little statement in, that said, your Tushy Doc is now on TikTok. And it got some views. And then I just started posting videos about rectal, proctology, tushy-related issues. And it just went from there. One of my first videos was on anal itching. I shared with everybody. I said, I have anal itching. I've had it for a long time. It's not curable. And I go, oh, my kids are rolling their eyes right now. They're like, oh, my God, my dad just told the world that his butt itches. And I said, don't worry about it, kids. There's going to be about 4 people who watch this video. Because, it was very new. And like the next day, it had like 20,000 views. And I was just laughing so hard. I'm like, oh, I didn't think anybody would see this. And like 20,000 people saw it. So that was it. I just kept going. I just kept talking and doing videos. And then I made a video about 2.5 months ago. It was over 5 minutes long, and I wasn't even going to post it. It's too long. No one's going to watch it. And then I just contrary action. Something was pulling in me, in my gut, in my heart, and the gut is where our brain is, they say. And I posted it, and it hit 4.7 million views. It went viral, and it was on basically poop in your underwear and sticky poop. And I just did my demonstration the way I do, using my different props. Like I said, I wasn't going to post it. And I did. And at midnight, I looked, and it had 500,000 views. And I have a group text with my kids. So I group texted them. I said, check this out. And I had a little snapshot of it. And they were all like, oh, my God, Dad, oh, my God. And the next day, it had 1 million views, and it just kept going. So that was really cool. And to me, it's just great because I get to talk to now, I think I have, I don't know how many followers I have, but it's thousands of followers. I get to talk to thousands of people at a time versus one person at a time in my office, and I get to share the information. And what I'm finding really interesting is that I will share my experience on how my patients do after I do a hemorrhoidectomy or a banding of their hemorrhoids. And I'll say it's not as bad as you'll see on TikTok. And there will be so many people saying it was the worst thing I ever did. Don't do it. And it's interesting because I'm trying to help people know that it isn't that bad, and everyone's fighting it that it is that bad. And I guess the difference is this is all I do. So, going to see someone who doesn't do this all the time, it may be a very bad experience. But because it's all I do, I've learned to educate the patients on how to recover from these issues. And typically it's having a really good bowel movement. Yeah, it's been amazing. So I get to educate on so many different things, and colonoscopies as well, because I do those.
That is awesome. I was curious to know, of the people that follow you, that you refer to lovingly as Tushy Team, is there anything that they have taught you or that you've learned about the people that follow you?
Margarita, that's an amazing question. Yeah, I have learned a lot from people. I'll post on, just sclerotherapy, that's hemorrhoid injections, and I'll talk about it, and they'll get done. They'll say, oh, how long does it last? Or does it hurt? Or what do you feel after? And having had my hemorrhoids treated, I've had my hemorrhoids injected for the itching. I have personal experience with it. I can share it with them. I find that people are really anxious about a lot of the issues they have. Like even if their stool's a little sticky mushy, they're wondering, do I go see a doctor? Do I have cancer? If they're bleeding, obviously, if they're bleeding, they're really scared. And then what I'm finding is really the biggest thing, which I've learned in my practice, and that's, and it's taken a long time. The majority of the Tushy team that post are very thankful for the information because they're getting educated from, the textbooks, journal articles, my experience. not, just someone out there, who had an experience that's sharing it and that's their only experience. And so when they're bleeding and they're not really sure what's going on, and I tell them these are the sources of bleeding. These are your symptoms, and these are the differential diagnosis, and this is most common. And however, go see a doctor like me, because if you're younger than 45 and you're bleeding, it is so imperative to have a colonoscopy. They're grateful. So I'm just finding that people are grateful to get the education and they're enjoying the humor. They're just people like us. I mean, I'm finding they're just people who are scared because they have symptoms. They love getting the information. It chills them out, as they say.
But also, I think people don't realize how common these issues are and how many others they know are suffering with similar or some kind of digestive or gastro issues. Like even our nervous poopers out there, they're suffering in silence.
Absolutely. The suffering in silence. I say that all the time. So Tushy Team, that came from my staff. I have 2 younger staff members, and they said, you need to have like the people that follow you. It'd be important to like have a name for them, so other people have names for their followers, and they were just saying that they go Tushy Team. I'm like, okay, let's do that. Every video I say, Tushy Team and, talk about it. On the video that went viral, some gentleman did he said, I'm going to have the Tushy Team Challenge or Tushy Doc Challenge. So now I have Tushy Doc or Tushy Team Challenge videos where I challenge people to do certain things. So that came from it. And as far as suffering in silence, Margarita, you are spot on. I say talking about hemorrhoids is like being at the high school dance. You look out of the dance floor, the music goes on, and it is completely empty. Every kid out there is like, not a chance I'm getting out on the dance floor. And then 2 brave souls go out and start dancing, and within 5 minutes, everybody's on the dance floor. Talking about hemorrhoids and bleeding is exactly the same. There'll be like 20 people at a dinner party. People have these issues. No one says a word, and one brave soul says, I'm having hemorrhoid issues. And everybody jumps into the conversation. And what I found also is in doing the videos, what I find from the people is that they're not alone anymore. People realize they're not alone. Even their Tushy doctor, the proctologist talking, has had itching and hemorrhoid issues. We're human. I'm human. Doesn't matter what you do. It can be an issue. So it's embarrassing. People are just so blessed that they don't feel all alone with this problem. It's still embarrassing. And I think for me, the lightheartedness that I give to it, the kind of the humor I put in and the humor on my website, it really does lower the elevated stress that people have of coming in. And that's really the main reason they don't come in. They're embarrassed. They don't want to bear themselves. They're embarrassed in front of me, and I get it. When I had my hemorrhoids treated, when I was working in Beverly Hills, I was at Cedars-Sinai, and I told my partner that I said, my butt is itching. It's driving me crazy. And I have a limerick on I have a pamphlet on it. I have a little limerick about an itchy butt. I sat on the other side of the table. And my first thought is, I wonder what he's thinking. And I'm like, you do this for a living. He's not thinking anything. We're like orthopedic surgeons looking at your elbow. We're not thinking one thing. It's just another body part. It's a dentist in your mouth. They're not thinking anything, but the anus is just, and I'm like, he's not thinking anything. Just shut your mind down and do it. And I had the hemorrhoid treatment, and now I know what my patients go through. And it was amazing. It works so well. That's another blessing that I have, is that I've had some of the issues that I'm taking care of my patients for. But the embarrassment is really that, and the pain that people think they're going to have. And I'll tell you, Margarita, for all the people my age, I'm 58, and maybe in their mid-50s and older, they'll know who this is. Being a proctologist is like, it's the Rodney Dangerfield of all the medical professions. We get no respect. I tell people, they're so happy. I go, tell all your friends, post it. And they're like, not a chance, doctor. I don't want anybody to know that I had hemorrhoids. So trying to get reviews or word of mouth, it's so difficult. So difficult. And so when people do, I'm always humbled that they would go on like Google or Yelp or Vitals and share their experience here. And I keep telling them, it's not about me. It's not about the staff. It has nothing to do with me. When you share this information, there's someone else out there that's suffering in silence, and maybe they'll read yours and say, okay, it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. They went through it. I'm going to go do it. And it might even save a life.
No, that's like a big reason why I talk about it. First of all, it's my personality, I would say, and it's in my family. Like when you talked about that video where you talked about the sticky poop in the underwear. Yeah. So this is just to give you context of what my family is like. Growing up, my dad always used to tell us this joke, and me and my brother thought it was the funniest joke in the world. In Russian and like Ukrainian culture, we have what are called anekdote, like anecdotes, little jokes that you throw in when the opportunity is right. And so the joke was like, a kid comes up to his dad, Daddy, I forgot how to put on my underwear. And the dad's like, oh, come on, Timmy. Like, I've told you a million times, yellow in the front, brown in the back. And that was like our favorite joke growing up, like as kids, as little kids. So that should give you like a frame of reference of what my family is like. But my grandmother died at 50 years old from colon cancer. And my other grandmother had stomach cancer twice. So like for my family, butt stuff and colon stuff is a reality. And when you talk about saving a life, like it's important to normalize these things and talk about them. So yeah, if my friends want to talk to me about colonoscopies or whatever, they should, because like me, they could have something that they don't know about or they're too embarrassed to bring up. And these things are serious.
Absolutely. And number one, I really, I'm so sorry to hear about your grandmother.
Thank you.
He's very young, and yes, it puts everybody at a higher risk. That is really sad news. And really what's sad too is we're finding that colon cancer rates in people younger than, they say young people, younger than 50, it's skyrocketing right now in America. About 20,000 young people will die of colon cancer in a year. And it's there's 150,000 deaths. So that's a good proportion of the population, and about 15 to 18%. And it's typically because younger people, younger than 45. So 45 is the screening age for colonoscopy. If patients are younger than 45 and they're having any type of bleeding, they wipe once and they bleed, they were diagnosed with an anal fissure, their hemorrhoids, they were itching and they scratched too hard and they bled. I don't care what it is. Tell them to get a colonoscopy. And when they do, I'm finding colon polyps, at big rates in young people. And when we remove a polyp that's precancerous, it can't grow anymore. It's gone. And they feel that the doubling time of a polyp is about 2.5 years. So you take someone who's 34 with bleeding and you find maybe a half a centimeter polyp. In 2.5 years, it's a centimeter. 2.5 years, it's 2 centimeters. And at 2.5 years, it's cancer. So we're at 7.5 years. They say they were 34. They were 41.5 years old. You're not even ready for your first colonoscopy. That comes at 45. 4 years later, it's doubled about 2 more times. And by that time, they've got a mass. They've got abdominal pain. They go for the first colonoscopy because they're in pain, probably around 44. And they find a cancer, it's spread to liver. I have so many people coming in with coworkers, friends, relatives that are in their 30s to early 40s were diagnosed with metastatic colon cancer. And really sad. I just had a 32-year young woman who came in, and she was having issues with obstipation. She was having a hard time having bowel movements. Had a CAT scan. CAT scan showed constipation, obstipation, stool in the colon. And she was thin. I could palpate the stool. And it just wasn't making sense. She was really nervous. I said, well, it's just, you're having a little bleeding. Let me just evaluate. And, she was on the table. And when I did my digital exam, I could feel the mass in her rectum. And I was able to do a short scope and a biopsy. And she had adenocarcinoma in the middle of her rectum. And the low third, 32 years young. And had some bleeding earlier than that. And, had a colonoscopy been done, maybe 8 years earlier that when it happened. And rectal cancer is higher among younger patients. It's more difficult because it's more difficult to get to. It's usually diagnosed later because everyone just blows it off to hemorrhoids. I mean, these things are really, really sad. Colon cancer is not only curable if caught early, one of the most curable cancers, it's preventable. So to me, that's the crime. There's a cancer that's preventable, yet it's the second leading cause of cancer-related deaths in America. It makes no sense. It shouldn't even be happening, yet it's killing people. It's the second leading cause of cancer-related death. And that's because people aren't getting the test. And what I'm really, really hoping for is that they'll have eventually a blood test that people can get that would diagnose polyps, not cancer, but polyps. The Cologuard is the stool-based.
I was going to ask about that. There is a take-home test, right, that you could do when they're like not sure if you need a colonoscopy. So as a first line of defense, you can take this Cologuard test, but they still usually end up sending you in anyway.
Correct. So for me, it's a great point. Cologuard came about, it was approved by Medicare. It's a kit that they ship to you. So we send in a request, the company sends a box, poop in a box, they call it on TV. And you open it up, you poop in a container, you put that container in some vials and then the liquid and you seal it up and send it back. So even that in itself, it's great because you don't have to prep, but a lot of people just don't want to poop in a container and he'll, handle their poop and put it in something and send it back. So, I mean, if 100 people said they needed it, if I had to guess, 20 or 30 are probably going to do it. A blood test would be better. But that being said, so that you send it in, and what they're going to tell you, either it's positive, which is a bad sign, it means that it's abnormal, or it's negative, which is a good sign. It's so backwards in medicine. The negative is actually the positive. So if it's negative and normal, you're good, theoretically. And what they found is they took this test and they gave it to a lot of people. And all of those people then went for a colonoscopy, because you have to know, is it working or not? And of course, they have their false positives. So people that tested that it was abnormal, that had nothing. That's not a big concern for me, because it gets more people to do the test if they're going to need the test. Then they found that people who were positive and had polyps, it was accurate in maybe, I think, 40 to 60% of most of people that have polyps. It could have been 20 to 60%, which is very low. If you get a colonoscopy and you have a polyp, we're going to find it 95% or more, okay? For cancer, it was 95% accurate. So someone who had a cancer, 95% of the time, that test was abnormal. A screening test is to find things in asymptomatic people before they have cancer. We don't want to wait until they have cancer and then find it. So if I have a polyp and it misses it and it's growing and it finally becomes cancer and this test finds it, it didn't do its job, because it's finding my cancer, not my polyp. So when people ask me, I say colonoscopy is a much better test. It's way more accurate. Yes, there's a bowel prep. Yes, there's anesthesia. And yes, there's risk of bleeding and even perforating the bowel, which are really, really, really rare. It's still better than having cancer. I say, look, if you end up doing nothing and you get cancer, you're going to need a colon resection. The risks of colon resection are way more than the light anesthesia of a colonoscopy, and there's a risk of an anastomotic leak where you put your bowels back together, you get really sick. So having cancer is much worse than having a colonoscopy. And what we're all waiting for, is some test that'll find a polyp without any prep, without really doing anything. Because for me, that would be better. I'd rather not have people go under anesthesia, rather not put them through the risk of a colonoscopy, even though it's unbelievably small. Why do it? If there's a test that says, hey, this is really accurate for polyps and it's abnormal, there's probably a polyp, let's go do a colonoscopy. So if you have 1 million people, right now 1 million people would get a colonoscopy. If you did that test, maybe only 600,000 would need a colonoscopy. And of course, the test can have many false negatives, meaning that it shows that there's nothing there, but these people have problems later. So, it has to be, a really good test.
I have to mention that in 2024, the stool testing that is done, it's atrocious. You have to poop in a little bucket, and then you have to scoop your own poop into the tube that they give you and refrigerate it overnight and drive it in the morning into the clinic. I feel like at the very least, they could invent the type of bucket or container that you can just poop in it and close it so that you don't have to use a spoon to scoop your own poop. That just seems so wrong.
I wonder if that's the FIT test.
It's the E. coli test. And you know how I know? Because I had to take it when I had E. coli in Bali.
So that's for a stool sample, right? Yeah.
It was horrible. But I'll tell you what, in Ukraine, when I was growing up, the stool test was, get this, you take your own matchbox. You have to find a matchbox in your house. You have to poop into the matchbox and then bring that into the clinic. So they don't even give you a matchbox. You have to have your own vessel.
Well, yeah, so that'll be the way here. I mean, nothing plastic; it'll all be paper. But I mean, we used to just take the stool from our digital exam and put it on the little sheet, and then put a little fluid on. If it turned blue, then you knew there was blood in it. But that blood could have been from hemorrhoids, and it probably was. And that was the fecal occult blood test, and I think that saved around maybe 27 to 33% of lives. A colonoscopy will save 52% of lives. And that's why it's just such a great test. And then, and I joke, why'd you go into this charge by the pound? And it was one of my favorite jokes. I have a great story. So typically people come in, they're having their colonoscopy. How do you feel? They go, oh God, I'm so hungry. I'm so tired. I've been up all night prepping. And oh my God, doctor, I haven't gone to the bathroom in a while. There's probably so much liquid in there. I go, oh, no, don't worry. I charge by the pound. It's beautiful. And they all laugh. And one day recently I had a patient in the office. I think she was probably around 76. Poor woman. She was impacted. She couldn't go to the bathroom and it was stuck for 5 days. And when that happens, we have to remove the stool manually in the office. And as I was doing it, it was really uncomfortable. It always is. And I feel bad, obviously, for the patients because I know how uncomfortable and even sometimes a little painful it can be to get that large volume of stool out of the anus while you're trying to use your fingers versus naturally. And I knew she was struggling, and it popped in my head, the charge by the pound. And I said, keep quiet. Like, now is not the time. Just because you're thinking it doesn't mean you have to say it. Keep quiet. And about, 10 seconds later, as I was doing it, she's like, oh, doctor. She's like, I mean, there's so much in there. She goes, I hope you get to charge by the pound. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. She said it. I was sitting there staying quiet. And I just started laughing. And I said, I love you. And thank you for saying that. And then after it was all done, I shared with her. It was usually my little joke, but I didn't want to share it. And she was really cute woman, very kind. I have the nicest people coming in. And I will tell you, there's nothing more satisfying to an impacted patient than when the bowels are disimpacted and you get the stool out. They go from miserable to just euphoric in that short period of time.
So I also noticed on your website when I was doing my research that there are elements of like holistic or Western medicine that you try to implement. And I was wondering if you had any advice or wisdom you could share on that to the average person on what they could implement in their routine that would be helpful generally.
Thank you, Margarita. So many great questions. So typically, and this was said, you go to a surgeon, you're going to get surgery. Like if you go to the barber, you're going to get a haircut. And I'm very conservative. Surgery is, I think, 10% of the patients that I see with hemorrhoids. And so I share with people is, try to be as conservative as possible. If surgery becomes the first option, maybe find someone else who wants to do other things. There are antioxidants to take, micronized diosmin, DIOS as in Sam, MIN, micronized diosmin. It's an antioxidant that shrinks varicose veins, hemorrhoid veins. It tightens up the lymphatic system. It just tightens up the venous system. It's not a medicine. It's an antioxidant. It works really well. It's something to consider. There are many different brands out there. They're all very good. Try to find ones that have 500 milligrams as a dose, not 600, because 500 means it's micronized smaller, so you don't need as much. Roidate is the brand that I have. That's one. Just taking psyllium fiber, having a better bowel. Most people with hemorrhoid issues have mushy, sticky stool. They're constipated. They have diarrhea. They're not having long, solid, soft, and clean bowel movements. So taking psyllium every day is very helpful. Using over-the-counter ointments can be helpful as a lubricant, like Preparation H. There's not much, I don't know anything in it that's going to shrink the hemorrhoids, but if it lubricates the area and patients feel better, that can alleviate some of the symptoms. But just, taking the psyllium fiber and having really good bowel movement, Perfect Poop is the brand that I have. Poop is POOP, Premium Optimal Oral Psyllium. Psyllium is PSYLLIUM. So there's an acronym there, POOP. And just having a better bowel movement. I can't tell you 95% of my patients, I put 100% of them on it. I go, you just take it. Just don't argue, just take it. And 95% will come back and say, oh my God, doctor, this is like the greatest thing ever. I've never had bowel movements like this. And some people have tried it and it's really helped their hemorrhoid symptoms. Sitting in a warm bath to relax the sphincter muscles, because when there's pain, there's squeeze. And the sphincter muscles don't know any better. So they're squeezing an area that's uncomfortable and it hurts even more. Sitting on a heating pad or sitting in hot water can help with that. Probiotics. A lot of us eat foods, and most of the foods we eat they're very high in sugar, like the high fructose corn syrup or all the sugary drinks. It's killing the good bacteria. The preservatives kill good bacteria. The nitrates in meat, certain meats, like red meat. Those animals have been fed antibiotics. We're eating them. It's really messing up our microbiome. So taking probiotics to get our microbiome back in balance is huge for many reasons. Same thing with taking psyllium. There's a lot of other health benefits. Just besides having a good bowel movement and better hemorrhoids. So conservatively, as far as like Eastern medicine, these are the things that I share with people to do. And then the Western medicine is they come in and if their hemorrhoids are big and they're doing these things and they're still symptomatic, I will shrink their hemorrhoids with sclerotherapy. We inject phenol. It's PHENOL, 5% mixed with olive oil, regular olive oil. It's made by a compounding pharmacy, and we just put in a syringe, and I inject their internal hemorrhoids. And everybody out there right now that's listening is like, oh, my God, you've got to be kidding me. I'd never go to see a doctor like that. And I've had it done. Internally, there are no nerve endings. So you don't feel the poke. You don't feel anything. The instrumentation we feel, tell everybody, everything I do is uncomfortable. Nothing I do will hurt. So, the finger, the instrument, all uncomfortable, but no pain. And then I get done and I'll say, okay, we're done. And they go, you treated already? I'm like, yeah. They go, I didn't feel a thing. And they were so freaked out about the procedure. But that's part of it. I'll rubber band ligate when needed. And of course, if those don't work, then we go to surgery. So I'm a big fan of basically Eastern, medicine, and then eating healthy. I mean, look at the foods that we eat. There's a fast food restaurant on every corner, a different fast food restaurant. I mean, there's 7-Elevens with, junk food are open, 24/7, 364 days a year. All the high fructose corn syrup, all these energy drinks that people are drinking, all the high sugar, all the nitrates in most of the meats that are processed. Eating healthy isn't as easy as it used to be. We don't grow our own food. We don't have farms that we live on anymore. We go to the market and we get it. I cook 98% of the time. I go out to eat very little, and I cook my own food. It doesn't mean I don't eat junk food. I mean, I eat cookies and I'll eat certain things, and I will go out to a restaurant and indulge. I'm a human being. We're all human. I just try to keep it as clean as possible, and I buy organic. So, and exercise, of course. Exercise is huge for lowering stress, oxidative stress, eating these healthy foods. Mediterranean diet. It's inflammation that's destroying us and aging us quickly. That's why Americans in this country, we have so much disease. So that was a long answer to a short question. Thanks, Margarita.
Thank you. This was very helpful. I guess the only thing I wanted to add to this, you can correct me if I'm wrong, or I can just show off my knowledge. We'll find out on the other end.
On the other end.
Laxatives. So my understanding is there are laxatives that have, for example, senna, which work to stimulate the motion of your colon. And that's what gets the poop out easier. It has your colon contract. And over time, when you are stimulating the motion of the colon, or whatever you want to call it, your colon forgets how to work on its own, and it can create a dependency. But with a laxative like Miralax, what it does is it deals with water absorption. So your stool keeps the water and it doesn't absorb into your body, so it has an easier time passing. So it doesn't affect the way that your colon works, so there isn't a dependency. So for people listening, if they need laxative, would you say Miralax is better than senna-based laxatives?
You are brilliant.
Thanks.
You really nailed that. And you said it on the other end. I love that before you started. Quick wit. So 3 types of laxatives: stimulant laxatives, osmotic laxatives, and bulk laxatives. I don't like the word laxative for the bulking agents like psyllium, like fiber. We'll get there. Here's the thing, Tushy Team. Stimulant laxatives, the ones that usually are taking, are all natural. And that's what kicks my butt. I've seen, I'll call them shysters out there, and they have a fiber product with senna or cascara, and they say it's quote unquote all natural. And all natural doesn't mean non-medicinal, and all natural doesn't mean it's not addicting. As you were saying, Margarita, you get used to it. Heroin, I think that's all natural. It comes from poppy seeds. All right. Pretty addictive, but it's all natural, and not legal. So stimulant laxatives stimulate the bowel. It's a noxious stimuli, basically, receptor binding, irritation. Whenever we take something that binds a receptor, eventually our body will produce more receptors and we need more of the drug. Not all of them, but most, like narcotics. That's why people get addicted. They're taking them and it works really well. And you keep taking it, and all of a sudden you went from 2 receptors to 4 receptors. And you go from 4 to 8. You need more of the medication. That's how it works. Now, Senecot comes from senna, and Cascara sagrada comes from a different plant. They're all natural, and it takes probably over a year of everyday use to become hooked on it. And what happens is, when you stop taking it, your bowels don't work as well because it needs the noxious stimuli. So as far as a laxative, when I have patients taking those, they're pretty constipated. They're getting close to being impacted, and I'll have them take Senecot. I'll have them take their Cascara or Ducalax, which is bisacodyl. It's a pretty powerful one. I'll have them take it, till they start going to the bathroom, and maybe take it for 4 or 5 days just to help them go while adding fibers. So that's how I use stimulant laxatives, short term, a couple weeks, and then wean down. Osmotic laxatives are laxatives that hold water in the colon. So Miralax is polyethylene glycol. Look up antifreeze and see the active ingredient in antifreeze. It's very similar. And it's very concentrated, holds water, and it doesn't work right away. So that's the other thing. People take Miralax and they want it to work right away. It takes 3 days to work when you're taking a dose every day. And it holds water in, it gives a little bulk, makes the colon slipperier, and it makes it easier to go to the bathroom. Milk of magnesia is another one, and so is magnesium itself is an osmotic laxative. So if you're going to take something, I'm always more of a fan of the earth product. So taking magnesium every day. And it's interesting because a while ago, probably 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, I was reading on Life Extensions, one of the supplement magazines and companies that I buy my supplements from, and they have all these articles. I'm telling you, by the time I get done reading their magazine, I could order 100 different supplements because they all seem like you need them. But it said magnesium was great for the brain. So I started taking it. And like 4 days later, I'm having like 5 mushy bowel movements a day. And I'm like, what is going on? I'm like, oh, it's the magnesium. Because magnesium, if it has oxide and citrate, it's going to help you go to the bathroom. So that's how that works. It's not addicting, but it's not a bulking agent. And the best thing we can take is a bulking agent. Psyllium is nature's best fiber. So fruits, vegetables, and grains all have nutrients. They have nutrition. They have calories. They have minerals and antioxidants. And they're great for the body. And they do bind and they do expand, but they don't congeal and create that soft, solid, clean bowel movement like psyllium. Psyllium is nature's best fiber. It's a plant that creates thousands of seeds, and those seeds have this shell has tremendous fiber, and it's a long chain carbohydrate. So the bacteria can't break it down as much, so there's much less gas producing. And taking psyllium every day and drinking water, because the fiber of a plant is the strength of the plant, and it's the sponge-like property of a plant, spongy when you eat it, and sponges need water. So if you're going to eat a sponge and you're not going to drink water, it's going to be a hard sponge because it gets dehydrated. So if we're going to take psyllium and eat fiber-rich foods, make sure we get at least 4 to 6 glasses of water a day. It's very important because when we get dehydrated, our colon gets dehydrated, and it is a 6-foot-long water slide. And you know what happens when you go to the pool and it's 85 degrees and you get on top of the slide and it's broken, the plastic is hot and your skin is dry and you sit on it and you're stuck. You're not going anywhere. But if you put a bucket of water on the slide, you're going right down. Same thing in your colon. If you're dehydrated, the brain tells the colon to suck up more water because that's its job, is to reabsorb water, and it gets dry. Your stool is dry and it's stuck. You drink an extra 2 or 3 glasses of water and it's like, your stool just goes sliding right out. So psyllium, like I said before, many different brands. I try to avoid the sugary, flavored brands, things like that. And with the colorants, just perfect poop is on my site. Taking that every day, that is what helps people like 95% of the time. And that bulk laxative stretches the colon. And that stretch is not a receptor. There are little nerve plexuses. And when there's a stretch, those nerve plexuses feel it, and then they contract harder. And so it's a hand over hand contraction. So when the bowel stretches, that stimulation causes the bowel to squeeze more. It also lowers pressure in the colon, less risk of diverticular disease. When it comes out, it stretches the anus, so less hemorrhoid issues. It lowers psyllium binds bile, it lowers cholesterol, it balances blood sugar. The bacteria eat it, you get better immunity, less gas forming.
You got to stretch that anus, folks. What can I say?
Yeah, you do. Physical therapy. It is. That's why I tell people after surgery, if you have a good bowel movement, the better the bowel movement, the better the recovery. And I tell people, I've had 2 shoulder surgeries. If I didn't move my arm, if I didn't go to physical therapy, I would have had a frozen shoulder. It's just athletes, physical therapy. Everybody has an injury. Physical therapy, it's the movement. You cut your finger, you move your finger. It hurts, but you move your finger. You got to move it or it's going to get stuck and it scars down tighter. So having that bowel movement is the natural stretch. It is the natural physical therapy to the anus.
I have a question we haven't addressed that was the elephant in the room question that everyone's dying to know, which is, why do Jews have so many gastro issues?
I think it's because of the persecution for so many years. Seriously, stress and GI issues. We hold stress in our head, we hold it in our shoulders, we hold it in our gut, or we hold it in our butt. And muscles get stressed, and these muscles are no different than anywhere else. And there's the brain-gut connection. And I really believe from all the stress, you think about how many times that society has wanted to get rid of all the Jews, and how many times that we persevered, and what people went through whether it was the Spanish Inquisition, whether it was the Holocaust, and what their parents went through, and then the kids hearing the stories. And I really think, and the guilt. There's a lot of Jewish guilt, and that does play a role because we feel a lot of shame. This generation, this newer generation, therapy is really big now. The pandemic has really shown us what being isolated is all about, not having a purpose. The Chabad, I love when the rabbi says we need to have a purpose, the Modani. The prayer, first thing is just thanking God that I woke up, that he put his soul back in my body, and that he has belief in me, his faith in me. And he always says, what if God have faith in me? Like, I have faith in God. God is the ultimate king. God is the ultimate entity. Why would God have faith in me? And if you realize God has faith in yourself, you have a purpose. You were put here to do something good. But now with social media, you go online, you post something, you get 3 likes instead of 3 million. It's like, I'm worthless. Our worth becomes what we get from the outside, not what we have from the inside. And as Jews, that kind of stress and there's a lot of sarcasm in the Jewish homes. I grew up with a lot of sarcasm. I took that out. Every time I'm a little sarcastic, it bites me in the ass. And I say that as an ultimate authority. I do my best not to be sarcastic with my children, Then they even say, you're kind of boring now, Dad. I said, that was my change. I said, I grew up with it. I said, I don't want to shame you. I don't want you to ever feel shame. Do it, if someone else does, fine. But I really think that has a lot to do with it. It's the internal feelings that we don't totally know we're feeling. It's like in the background. It's elevating our hormone levels, our epinephrine levels, cortisol levels, inflammation's going up, and it's affecting our GI system big time. So that's my answer. It's how we are as people. And we're beautiful people. We have spiritual souls. We do so much good. There's no question about it. We're not perfect. There are a lot of people, bad apples in every group, in every form, whether it's medicine, whether it's, religion, or, spiritual faith, spiritual whatever. But for the most part, we also were taught to be mensches and menschesses and just do a good job. So I think that's also why we're so successful.
We're a light upon the nations, you and I.
So that's my answer.
Thank you so much. Yeah, Jewish guilt.
Oy.
I have learned so much from you in this conversation. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak with you and learn from you. How can people connect with you on social media and find more about your work?
Thank you very much, Margarita. So on social media for TikTok, it's at Tushy Doc, TUSHY DOC. And on Instagram, it's Tushy Doc. I do more posting on TikTok. YouTube, you just look up Dr. Rosenfeld proctologist, or I think CBS The Doctors. That's how I post them. They're there. All my videos are there. And online, if you just look up proctologist Thousand Oaks, you'll find me. My website's there. It's toproctology.com. I've had a lot of people go to my site and just look under ailments, and they find my hemorrhoid pamphlet and they'll read it. And they're like, even that themselves, they try everything on there and they find it helped their symptoms a lot before they even come in. So those are the ways to find me. I do video and phone consultations for people who live out of state. I do have people coming in from all over the country, from other countries. It's a blessing. I'm just humbled that anybody would come see me in the first place, let alone travel more than a mile. So it is doable for people who are out of state. If they just want to have a conversation, I do that.
Great. And I have one final question for you. It's one that I ask every single guest of the podcast. Who would you like to nominate for People Jew Want to Know?
Oh, wow. I mean, honestly, I'd want to nominate Shlomo Bistritsky, my rabbi. He is an amazing spiritual soul. We connected the first time I went to Chabad. I was Reformed. I went in for a bar mitzvah for my son's friend. He started talking, and I got chills, and it just elevated my soul, and I've been there 7 years now. He's brilliant and spiritual.
Thank you so much. Wait, you said you were Reformed back then. Are you not Reformed now?
Oh, I'm Reformed plus conservative minus. I wear kippah all the time for spirituality, and the rabbi said, "Hey, don't just be Jewish, do Jewish. Wear kippah. Wear it to the market and take it, and then take it off when you go home." And I was really trying to connect more with God, and I decided, well, if that's connecting me, because the men need it, why would I take it off? So I've just kept it on for probably 4 years now, and so I go there, I learn a little Torah. I don't keep kosher. There's a lot of things that I don't do as a Jew, but I'm just very proud. I love wearing the kippah. It keeps me grounded. And that was really, his doing. No guilt, just saying, hey, think about it, try this. So I'm Reformed plus, conservative minus, if I had to guess. But like he says, there really isn't conservative Reform, this, that, the other. Orthodox. He said, we're just Jews. That's the Chabad. We're all Jews. There's no labeling. We're all here to walk each other home and be a part of the same culture, the same tribe, and, be there for each other as best we can. Sad story. A very good friend of mine, though, it's not really sad. He's been around. He's still here 10 years with a metastatic lung cancer. He's supposed to be gone in 3 months. He's still here. He became a Chabadnik. He said he wanted to meet my rabbi. And back when he was pretty sick, he was just brazen. He'd say anything. So he looked at the rabbi and said, "Rabbi, what's your purpose here on this earth?" And the rabbi said, "I've been doing this for like 25 years. Not one person has ever asked me. And I've always been waiting for this answer. And it's so funny that your best friend that you're sitting next to is a proctologist. Because my answer would always be, if I was asked, to be a hemorrhoid. I want to make you uncomfortable enough about your Judaism that you'll get up off your butt and do something about it." And I just laughed. So that's another reason we connected.
That's an amazing story. Thank you so much for doing this, Dr. Rosenfeld. It has been a privilege. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please go ahead and rate us 5 stars. Be the first to hear our episodes by subscribing to People You Want to Know wherever you get your podcasts. And for exclusive content, follow us on Instagram at People You Want to Know.